Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Iowa, Kansas, Convention of States is on fire right now. When we get done with this, I want to know what amendments you'd like to see when this thing goes through, because I'm telling you, it's going through. Stay with me. Okay, so we're back again with more Convention of States fire. Okay, just pure fire. Tons of movement right now. For this movement, this is the greatest time of year. And I heard Rita Peters mention from Convention of States Action. I heard her mention that they've never seen this kind of movement this early in a legislative session. We've already won over 2 more states. All right, so we're halfway there. If you're not familiar with what Convention of States is, Convention of States is the ability, it's Article 5 of the Constitution, which lays out the ability and the process for amending the Constitution. It allows for 2/3 of the Congress to do it, to propose the amendments, or 2/3 of the states to get together in convention and propose the amendments. The ratification process is exactly the same. We still need a supermajority, 38 states to 3/4, to be able to make any of those amendments mean anything. But the whole beauty of this is that Congress is not involved. If we call the convention and we make, and the reason this was put together, George Mason in his brilliance had rejected the initial Constitution, and he rejected it on the grounds of a few grounds. One, no Bill of Rights, which we got put in, and the other was Article 5, that he thought it was silly that we would have a process for Congress to amend the Constitution, but if they got out of control, that we would actually believe that they were going to amend it to give up control. So they added in the Convention of States option. Not designed to be used often. In fact, it's never been used until now. All right. This is why I say it's going to be 200 years from now. They're going to be teaching this in school about the one time this was used, because it won't get used again for another 100, 200 years. Okay. This is the kind of thing where you just got to knock them back in place. And then slowly, by nature, they're going to regain power. They're going to regain power. And eventually it will get out of control. Okay. And something like this will have to be called again. All right. But not for not certainly in our lifetime. So this is something, we're making history here, folks. This is a big deal. The American people are making history here. All right. So get on it. Subscribe to the channel. Get the updates. We're going to be covering this. I am all over this. I am watching this like it's the playoffs. Okay. I am all over this. So make sure that you're on it as well. So here's some of the latest stuff. We mentioned to you that Pennsylvania was a shocker that came out of nowhere. That sounds now like it's likely to pass the resolution this year. And excuse me, I am suffering COVID-19. Don't worry, it's not contagious through the screen. But I'm getting over it now, so I may cough or jitter every now and then. 2319! We have a 2319! But Pennsylvania, Mark Meckler had mentioned in an interview the other day that he had gotten a call from the Speaker of the Pennsylvania House, and it was weird to him because usually it's him reaching out to them, and this time they reached out to him. Now, we covered earlier this is about a month and a half ago, the open floor debate they had between Meckler and this gun rights advocate who had been holding this up in out of committee forever because he's irrationally believed that it was going to overturn the Second Amendment. So this bizarre argument goes on where everybody in the room is pro Second Amendment, but yet there are people in the room who have to defend the Second Amendment. It was really bizarre. But in the end, Meckler dismantles this guy with history. I said it at the time. It looked really good for Pennsylvania because when you just listen to that debate, it was clear who won that debate. And everyone in the room clearly, now they just passed it. So they passed 7-4, which means we're expecting a full vote by the Senate. Could come within a week or two. So and then it's off to the Senate. I mean, to the House. So, and we've already gotten word. The House leadership reached out to Mark Meckler, said, yeah, they think this is going to move forward. He got called from the chief of staff, from the Senate Majority Leader, said, yeah, I think this is going to pass. And it was funny because Mark Meckler was like, well, I don't know if when you say pass, you mean like pass through committee or like pass through the House? Or he was like, no, just pass. So I got fired up, and now I'm seeing that, boom, not even a week later, it passes through committee and is on its way. So get ready for Pennsylvania. That's going to be a big one breaking in the next couple of weeks as well. South Dakota, this is an interesting one. So that we just reported the House had passed had passed the resolution. But so now we have the Senate, and the Senate had pushed it off to the 41st day. So this is one of those code speaks that drive you nuts as a citizen when you're trying to figure out what the hell they're talking about. It's like, English, please. I'm taking it to mean that they were pushing it. So there's 40 days in session. They push it to the 41st day, which means they basically buried it. So they ran this process where, and what did she call it? Rita Peters was talking about this. Yeah, so that it be pulled from the 41st day, something known as a smokeout, which is apparently a very rare process. But it means, and it was successful, okay? And what that means is that the Senate will get to vote on whether to consider the resolution for final vote. So they will be held accountable to the people of South Dakota for trying to, they're not allowed to punt this one. They're going to have to make a call on it. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful because South Dakota should move forward with it. So we're tacking them on here, folks. We've got Iowa, who we talked about in earlier episodes, where they had just passed it through subcommittee. So that's going to go to committee for a vote. And it passed well through subcommittee, too. I put the quote in the intro video for a previous video where he talked about how irrational it was to talk about runaway conventions and all this. So it looks good there. And then we've got Kansas coming up as well. Massachusetts had already heard, although, it's Massachusetts. So let's just tongue in cheek there, but we'll see, right? Because again, this hasn't been a partisan issue. These topics have been fire all around. If you're not aware of what the topics are, they're on term limits, fiscal restraints on the federal government, and government overreach. Those are the three key topics. And I want to get to a point that brings me to my point. That I mentioned yesterday. I'd like for you guys to leave in the comments what type of amendments you would like to see. So when this convention gets called, because it's going to get called, whether it's this year or next year, it's going to get called. So within those three topics, term limits, fiscal restraints on government, and government overreach, what constitutional amendments would you write if you were a delegate chosen to go in on those topics? Now, it has to be on those topics, so let's not turn this into a free-for-all. Keep it on topic because the delegates have to keep it on topic. So I want to talk about things that can really happen, right? And I'll give you a few of mine. On when it comes to fiscal restraints, what I would really like to see is a repeal of the 16th Amendment. So if you're not familiar with the 16th Amendment, it's the government passed the 16th Amendment, okay, because the courts would not allow them to impose income tax on the people. So the courts had found it unconstitutional. The courts had decided over and over again. So a decade went by and these efforts were going on like crazy. And they finally found a moment where they had the right mix of progressives across the country to be able to pull it off. And they passed the 16th Amendment. And ever since, the rest was history. Our paychecks have been getting jacked up ever since. And what happened as a result? This is where the favors and this is where they got to use our tax money to repay bribes, right? So, right, that's the system we live in now. They demand money from corporate America. Corporate America doesn't pay. Corporate America gets tied, whatever company it may be, gets tied up in regulation and can't operate anymore. So corporate pays and they pay them, but then, okay, just to keep it all cordial, they pay them back and they write in quote unquote loopholes. And then they insult us by coming back and saying, oh, you know what? You elect me to office and I'm going to close the loopholes. Really? Like the loophole is there because some crafty accountant found it? No, the loophole is there because you wrote it in there. Okay, you wrote it in there. And any corporation or person or human being that's going to pay taxes on something they don't have to pay taxes on because there's something in the tax code that says you don't have to, no one is going to pay that tax. No one. But they insult us and act like the loophole is something that evil corporate guy found. They didn't find it. You called them up and told them what line it was. That's what happened. So I'd like to see the 16th Amendment overturned, replaced with a fair tax, or also known as a consumption tax, and then with some sort of cap placed in there so that they don't just get stupid and be like, all right, now it's a 50%, consumption tax. Somewhere around the 10 to 12% mark would be fair with no income tax. If I'm keeping all of the money that you're taxing me on, and now I can decide when I want to pay taxes and whatnot, we'll gain more money, we'll have more revenue, everything will be better if this happens. So I'm a big fan. Now, when it comes to And of course, leave your comments as to what you think about what I'd like to see. So dismantling of regulatory agencies in areas where the federal government has no constitutional authority. So for this, I mean, there's a lot I want gone here, right? So first of all, regulatory agencies sicken me in general. They sicken me. It's one thing to have an organization who monitors the environment. It's another thing to have an organization that has the authority to show up on someone's private land and demand money for some random environmental quirky thing that they found. Like, this swamp comes 10 feet past this. You have to spend all this money to dig these trenches and do all this stuff. Like, that's nonsense. All right, if they want to go in there and make some recommendations on emissions, things like that, fine. But no regulatory agency should be able to create a punishable law, ever. There's no accountability there. This is how they operate, right? And it's not Congress that uses them. It's the presidents that use them. Okay, it's when the presidents can't get something through Congress, they've been backdooring it through these agencies and calling them regulations. Well, that needs to stop. So that's a big one. That's probably the biggest one for me when it comes to the government overreach. All right, and then with the term limits, deep state, baby. Everyone's focused on elections and elected officials, and they're like, oh, Pelosi, we have term limits. They're elections. There's no term limits on that creepy dude who's been in freaking office forever, who's like got his tentacles into everything from Area 51 to the NSA to your emails to everything else. There's no limit on that guy. That guy keeps getting matter of fact, that guy's not even appointed. Okay, the guy, even the people the president appoints are not that guy. But they all get term limits, okay? All of them, like every single one of them. I just smash the deep state to freaking pieces because I'm done with it, right? Let all the aliens go now. Let all the aliens out of Area 51. Just see them all running out of there like, we're free. All right, so, but those are those are the three biggest ones that I'd like to see. So let me know what you'd like to see. I definitely want to hear from everybody. I definitely engage in the comments, so you will hear back from me should you comment. And I look forward to getting back to tomorrow. Let's see what news breaks. Every day is going to be a haymaker this week. So let's get on it. COVID-19 strikes again. I'm out.
And like that,